Drama bin drama, Arab drama, ole drama, zote pamoja. Yeah. Just when some people thought things had finally gone at least a little quiet in Kenyan politics, suddenly it all goes berserk. The Kenyan Constitution has a 2/3 gender rule that has been ignored since 2013. Ignored by the people who have power to make things happen. Indeed, in some debates in the House, it has been reduced to a joke. When you hear a member of parliament, Baba ya watu, in his right mind, say the following, and I quote, "We struggle so hard to win our parliamentary seats. Now these women want free seats handed over to them on a silver platter. Hawezekani." What? Now I'm here to verify whether these people talking like this have mothers, sisters, wives, daughters, etc., etc. But I have no words for such comments. Let's just leave it at that. Although what I can tell you for free is that such comments, such attitudes will come back, definitely will come back to bite very hard and very painfully. Indeed, all this is a very clear reflection of how short-sighted our politicians in Kenya are. I know they have the intellect to see far, because it has been given to all by Almighty God. However, they have stubbornly refused to see far. And by the way, seeing far is a very critical part of the job of any politician anywhere in the world. And there are very many ways these politicians have refused to see far. Number one, the 2/3 gender rule is not about women. If I understand the English language properly, it means gender, period. Let me explain and give you a simple example. Sometime in the future, something happens in Kenya and we end up with more than 2/3 of our parliament being women. Men become less than a third. Now I can hear somebody telling me, "Chris, you're dreaming. That can never happen." Well, if there's any lesson we're going to take away from the year 2020, then it is the simple lesson that nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. Anything can happen suddenly. If last year, at around this time, I had told you that in the year 2020, children will not go to school, you'd have called me a madman. Theoretically, there are various ways where this can come about. Men can go to war. Somewhere, the political climate in the country can change, because something crazy happened. Anyway, in that future date, you end up with a parliament of women and very few men. And we all know that women think very differently from the way men think. And these women decide violence against women in Kenya, we have just had enough. And because they have the numbers, they pass laws that men find unfair. For instance, they rule that the punishment for any violence against women will be capital punishment. yeah, or a certain vital part of their body will be chopped off. That small thing or big thing down there in your body. And the bill sails through parliament. Pap! It's a law in Kenya. Now, maybe the example I've given is too dramatic, but I think you get my point. Constitutions, yeah, are supposed to be made for posterity, so that 100 years from today, they still make sense. They don't have to be reviewed. The second way in which our politicians have been very short-sighted is the fact that as they have been joking, making fun, ignoring, taking lightly, yeah, this critical part of our constitution, things have been happening in courts. The matter of the 2/3 gender rule not being implemented has been litigated all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, let us simplify this greatly, yeah, because we're not all lawyers. And let's take a hypothetical situation. Yeah, you have a murder case, and it is litigated all the way to the Supreme Court. Then, as you're being led to the gallows, you come back to your senses and you realize how serious this thing is. And therefore instruct your lawyer, let's go back to court. Postpone this and let's go back to court. Your lawyer is going to give you that look of, aye? What? What are you talking about? When you have exhausted a matter in the courts, yeah, technically, it is impossible to go back and start again. How? Well, to be honest, in the matter of murder, for instance, there's something called new evidence being found. New conclusive evidence, yeah, that proves you didn't do it. But folks, we are talking about the Constitution, yeah, as the late Kijana Omalo used to call it. And that is why, yeah, I find it very strange when a senior counsel, a lawyer, advises the president to seek, yeah, the best legal advice before he responds, yeah, to Maraga's letter to dissolve parliament, send all the MPs home, and take the nation called Kenya back to the debe, back to the ballot. You know, I understand, yeah, many lawyers have made a career out of finding loopholes somewhere. And I guess what this very experienced lawyer was talking about, experienced lawyer and elected, yeah, member of the Senate was talking about, was somebody finding a loophole, yeah, which even if they find, will be going against the spirit of the Constitution. To cut to the chase, we now have a situation in Kenya where our politicians have been well and truly cornered. You know, there's an English word, squirm. Cops arrest you, you know you committed the crime, so you start squirming and you start blubbering, saying things which are not making sense. Oh, I don't know the victim. I have never met them in my entire life. I can take an oath. And then the cops tell you, are you sure? Because according to the information we have, you are married to the victim 20 years ago. So you're sure you've never met them? You don't know them? You of course did not have any idea that they already know everything. You didn't stop to think, yeah, and shut your mouth and tell yourself, first of all, I have to find out how much they know before I start payukering. But that is human nature. Yeah, when people are cornered, they squirm. It would not have taken a rocket scientist politician to sit down and think and realize all these cases going to court are shutting the door to us going to court in future. They are limiting our options, if we want to go to court in future. So let us be careful. Let us do 1, 2, 3. Let us stop these court cases. Let us delay them, etc., etc. Instead, ni kukula tu allowances na pesa ya Kenyan taxpayer. Yes, that's what our MPs have been busy doing. And there's something about eating. When you eat, you stop thinking. Kwanza, when you overeat, and your stomach is so full, your brain stops working. Or in other words, the speed at which your brain works is dramatically reduced. It remains with only the basics. Move my left hand, move my right hand. Reach for my drink, flip the remote for the television, etc., etc. This maneno would not have come at a worse time for politicians. Mpaka I'm convinced, that there's somebody like the guy upstairs ambaye ako kwa chessboard. Oh yes. And what is happening is that we are a few seconds away from the last checkmate move. Checkmate, for those who don't play chess, means that the game is over for politicians. And I will tell you why. The mood of the Kenyan voter right now. The mood. Now, if you doubt me, take a little time, go somewhere and talk to ordinary Kenyans, and see what they have to say. People are livid. You mention the word politician, immediately they start talking about how watu wameiba pesa yetu. Folks, if we went back to the ballot today to elect new MPs, it would be more than a disaster for the current sitting legislators. Kenyans will end up electing people you cannot imagine. Our politicians know that. And therefore this bombshell from Maraga is more than a nightmare. How? How do I face the electorate? This is what these guys are asking themselves. And nobody in the political class will be spared. Even those who will not be going back to the ballot. And there are very many things which suddenly, overnight, can cease to exist, can cease to make sense. The BBI, for instance, the brand new legislators will be coming into the house straight from the very hot boiling pot of discussions amongst ordinary Kenyans. And they will question. One of the excuses given by politicians is that sending all MPs home will be very expensive. Where will the money be found to hold elections in every constituency? Now hold on a minute. Money for referendum, we can find. Money for the ongoing BBI has been found. But money to go back to the debe cannot be found. Let me be Nigerian. How now? How now? Now let's take a bird's eye view of the situation. Right now in Kenya, we have reached a place called the personal interests of the politician elected into parliament versus the interests of the people. Kenyans have realized those two in our country are never the same. They are never on the same trajectory. Never ever. And so this issue lands on the table, bang, when that discussion is going on. And so if I was a politician right now, if I was a member of parliament, I would keep my mouth firmly shut. Because the more I talk, the more I expose myself, and the more I expose and confirm the fact that the personal interests of politicians in Kenya are the very opposite of the interests of the people, and it has always been like that. And that is one of the biggest diseases, problems we have in the country called Kenya. You know, the president can choose to ignore Maraga's letter. Yeah, others are saying there's no time limit. Yeah, and therefore the president can choose to dissolve parliament shortly before the 2022 elections are due. We also know that in Kenya, when enough politicians right across the political divide are against something, it's shelved. It doesn't matter what the constitution says. It doesn't matter what the laws of Kenya say. But as long as enough politicians have spoken on the matter, hiyo maneno imeisha. However, in this particular case, things are very different. And they're different in that whatever happens, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if somebody completely ignores Maraga's letter. It doesn't matter. But there'll still be serious consequences. The BBI initiative, for instance, is in a very, very difficult position. Because people are already talking right across the political divide. Even ODM diehards are already talking. Yeah. People who have been following Baba for decades are already talking. And they're saying, why do we want to change a constitution that we have not fully implemented? Does that make sense? Because, for instance, the 2/3 gender rule, we have refused to implement. So what are we doing creating new rules when we have not implemented the rules we already have? How do we know that this constitution has shortfalls? How will we know before fully implementing it? And don't even bring the COVID manenos, the COVID haste manenos. Don't. Yeah. You know, Kenyans usually have very short memories, Kenyan voters. But this time, something has changed. Yeah, because a few weeks ago, I had somebody saying, hao watu walipeleka watu quarantine, unalazimishwa kwenda mahali, unafungiwa mahali, alafu unaambiwa utalipa. Na saa ile uko quarantine, mahali ambapo si pazuri lakini unalipa kama hoteli, ile pesa ilitakiwa ilipe hiyo quarantine imeingia ndani ya mfuko ya mtu. Now, this is a simple Kenyan talking. Yeah. And from what I could gauge, they're not very well educated. Yeah. They hardly went to high school. And this is the way they are talking. They are talking very bitterly. That is why I'm convinced whatever decision our squirming politicians take, there will be consequences, very serious consequences. This one, I'm afraid, they cannot wriggle out of. Simply because of the chain of events that has brought us to where we are currently. I say, keep. I Safaricom. Wapi ile bobgon? Toa yote. Na mtu aende atafute mahindi. Ile bobgon tunahitaji ni nyingi. I want to finish with some remarks from the speaker, Justin Muturi. He has said this 2/3 gender rule needs to be brought up in the upcoming referendum if it happens. What he is saying is that we need to bring the very backbone or part of the backbone of our 2010 constitution to a referendum. In other words, we need to put the entire 2010 constitution to a referendum. In my view, it illustrates what is really in the hearts of our politicians. There are some annoying parts of our constitution, very annoying, because they frustrate our political class, not the people of Kenya, our political class. And therefore they have to be dealt with, including the 2/3 gender rule. You see, the entire 2010 constitution, which is very sympathetic, which puts the people of Kenya in power at an advantage over any cabal of politicians, is a big nuisance to our political class. And if you don't believe it, sample the parts of our constitution that our politicians have completely ignored, not implemented. And now they're eager to give us a new constitution through the back door of major amendments. How can that possibly work? Now, I have great respect for a great son of Kenya called Raila Amolo Odinga. I have great respect for him, for what he has done for our country, the sacrifice that he has given. I know for a fact, you may argue with me, many of you may not agree with me, but I personally know for a fact that Raila Odinga's intentions for the people of Kenya have always been good. But this time round, circumstances have conspired to put him in a very crazy position. In a position that is the craziest he has ever faced in his long political career. And if I were him, and for the sake of his legacy, because it would be very sad if in future people read about this great Kenyan, and just because of something that happened towards the end of his political career, they get him all wrong. To me, that would be the saddest thing ever. And so if I were him, I would see the writing on the wall and shelve the BBI process. Not because it is not good. Not because his intentions for the people of Kenya were not good. No! Simply because it is increasingly becoming politically unviable. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.